welcome back to Wood Forge UK. I'm back out in the woods today and I'm going to show you how to make some charcoal. So we've got here an old diesel drum that the farmer kindly gave me, and what you do is you need to cut a hole in the top, and then you can just see this, you need to make about 6-7 holes in the base, just punch them through anyhow, anywhere you can. Next stage is you dig a small pit and you put in 3 bricks, as you can see, and you also make a little bit of a trench on one side. So by setting the drum or the kiln now on the 3 bricks, you can see got a little bit of an airspace underneath on all sides, and then the trench. This will all make sense later as we go. I'm not sure how many gallons this diesel drum is, but I found it's approximately 2 wheelbarrow loads as a rough gauge. So next bit, we're going to get a fire going inside. Which ain't easy when it's a windy day. Getting a little bit of a bonfire going in there. And that's the key to this. You want a good fire at the base first before we start adding any of the hardwood logs in, which we're going to turn into charcoal. So at the moment the air's been sucked up on all sides through those holes through the base, so we're getting like a good convection going through. So something that helps sort of draw the air up through is just to put a piece of wood, long piece of wood inside, and that just helps draw the air up through. You'll see why in a bit. So you can see we've got the piece of wood wedged in the middle there. You might have to put a few logs around it just to get it to sit fairly upright. And now we can start putting all the other logs in now. Now you don't need to stack them really neat, so just kind of put them in randomly, because it helps if you have a couple of little air pockets. It helps with the process. So any logs you're going to put in to make charcoal, they need at least 6 months seasoning just to dry the sap out of them. If you use anything earlier than that, there's just too much sap in it to, to do the process properly. Longer than 6 months is fine, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to put my gauntlets on for these last few. I'm starting to feel the heat now. And it goes without saying, if you're going to have a go at doing this yourself, just watch your face and your eyebrows when you're looking in from the top. Looking carefully. And you will get smoke in your eyes. Goes with the job. So I've been making charcoal like this for a good sort of 8-9 years now. It works a treat, this method. So I'm now going to pull out the long stick. If you can see, get quite a bit of smoke. Hopefully you can make that out. You can see by pulling that log out from the middle, it just leaves like a little air pocket just to draw the air up to the top. And now we're going to leave that about 3 hours to burn. I'm going to show you the different stages to slow the burn down as we go. So at this first stage we're letting maximum airflow in because we really want the heat to build up in the base, because that's going to do a thorough charring, as it were, to essentially cook the wood. And you'll see we'll slow down the airflow a bit later. So at this first stage you can see all this billowing smoke, which is really dense, really thick, and it's kind of a white colour. And all that is really is just steam. That's the fire driving the moisture out of the wood as it begins to burn and char it. And as the burn goes on, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the colour of the smoke and the amount that the kiln gives off. So it's burnt down a little bit. Got a steel rod and the lid, which I'm just going to rest loosely on there. So I'm now going to slow the airflow down into the kiln. So as we filled the kiln to the top with logs, they will shrink down to about a quarter, maybe a third of this volume of the kiln. So they do get a little bit smaller as they turn to charcoal. We've slowed the airflow in, so having a nice steady slow burn, reducing the oxygen that's getting into the kiln. So while it does its thing, I may as well have a cup of tea. Just take a little peek inside. I don't open this too much because I don't want it to flare. I can see that, I don't know if the camera can. So you can see how hot the kiln's getting at the base. It's like red. So that's at least 800 degrees Celsius, so it's probably a bit more than that inside. We're near to the end of the burn now. You can see how the smoke has changed a little bit. There's a lot less of it than when we began, and also the smoke has more of a thin sort of blue colour to it, and all that indicates really is most of the steam, pretty much all the steam has been driven out of the wood now. So very shortly we're going to fill in the flue, the vent at the base there, stop the oxygen getting in totally and secure the lid on. And then we're going to leave it to cool off overnight. So typically it's just starting to rain, and I'm going to close up this kiln now. So I put big weight on the top just to keep the lid pinned down. One last thing I also do is I like to put a layer of soil around the top just to make sure no air is getting into this at all. So all the charcoal's in there and we need to let it cool off as slow as possible. Okay, we've come back the next day. The kiln should have cooled off on its own, and we're going to open it up and have a look at the charcoal we've made. So just breaking the earth seal. It depends on the geology where you set these up. You can use sand as well. just trying to avoid the earth getting into the charcoal. Okay, not too bad. Sometimes you get a few at the top that don't always cook all the way through. You can see that it's still wood there, it's starting to charcoalise. British charcoal makers, they kind of nickname these fire dogs. I have no idea why, tradition. So I didn't have as many fire dogs as I thought I did. Probably about 8 in there or so. Like I say, there's nothing wrong with them. You can use them for cooking or just on the log fire. Or as I say, better still, I'm going to use them to light the next kiln with the charcoal making. There, so that's the pure lumpwood charcoal, so I can use that in the forge when I do some blacksmithing or better still at a barbecue. So what we're left with, some of the bigger pieces, is the finer particles and dust. So this charcoal that's come out of the kiln, it's absolutely sterile because of the temperatures it's been through, and also charcoal is just pure carbon basically, so it's inert and therefore pretty clean. So this I can grind down into a very fine powder, and it can actually be used for cosmetic purposes. The very fine particles and the dust were left at the end. This can be used as a soil conditioner, a soil improver. So you can dig this into the vegetable patch or any kind of border. And generally it's just a good handful for a few square metres or so. You don't want to put too much on because it can lock up nutrients from the plants. That's good stuff. So, as you can see, this kiln method is quite a good way to make charcoal. Sometimes, if I'm making a lot, I've got 3 or 4 of these on the go. It's just a bit more efficient. But as this video is just a demonstration to show you how. So we've had 1 full bag, sometimes I can get up to 2, 1.5 of lumpwood charcoal. And as you've seen, everything that's come out of this kiln has a use. From firewood, cooking for the barbecue, soil improver for the garden, even cosmetics. If you can, I recommend buying local charcoal. Something that's been produced in this country from small wood or a coppice. This is far better for the environment. If you buy something that's commercially made, something you pick up from the petrol station for example, although it might be cheaper, it could be pumped full of chemicals. Is that something you want to cook your food on? I wouldn't recommend it. But also you don't know where that's come from. It could have come from a tropical rainforest somewhere in the world that could be illegally logged. And also remember the carbon footprint that is getting transported here to this country. It's not really a good clean fuel source, where we have plenty of trees in this country that we can make our own charcoal from. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.